If you want women to start approaching you for a change, here are 3 things that you need to start doing. And if you're a guy that struggles to get women's attention, then you might want to hit that follow button so that you can see more videos like this. Number 1 is to wear pops of color. Most guys are sticking to the neutral colors, but adding pops of inviting, warm colors to your wardrobe psychologically makes you seem more approachable and confident to women.
Are you sure?
You know, I would be inclined to agree if this was any other moment in human history. If a woman isn't approaching a man, it's not because he's wearing a gray shirt with blue jeans. If an average man were to follow this kind of advice, the modern woman will just pick apart whatever he's wearing and make fun of him for it. They'll say he's either trying too hard or he's dressing like a creeper or whatever other excuse comes into her head. Meanwhile, dirty Pookie Callahan can show up at a bar in gray sweatpants and still almost be guaranteed a stain-making session in the back of his Alfa Romeo in a minimum of 90 minutes. I'm not trying to be defeatist here, because having a decent wardrobe is kind of a good thing. But if you show up someplace dressed nice and you're an average guy, that woman is more likely going to take one look at you and think she can scam you for a free drink and quite possibly a free meal. So if you're gonna spend the money on a new wardrobe, do it because the clothes are awesome, not to impress some barroom floozy.
Number 2, and this one is so important, is to keep your head up always. Walking around with your head down or always looking at your phone makes you seem closed off and unapproachable. Keeping your head up gives you opportunities to make eye contact with women around you and shows that you are confident in absolutely any room that you walk into.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Hold the phone for a second. I thought that making eye contact with women was one of the most creepiest and uncomfortable things you could do to someone. That's what I hear all the damn time anyway. The bottom 95% of men are supposed to avert their eyes from the glory of women at all times, because if he doesn't, then it means he's just setting himself up for a social media HR nightmare. Again, I would be inclined to agree with you if this was any other moment in human history, but modern women have made it perfectly clear that she only wants certain types of men making eye contact with her. And if we don't fall into that absurdly specific category, then we are not to look at her under any circumstance unless we wish to face the wrath of public humiliation. Now, don't get me wrong, men should be confident, but they should be walking around with good posture and their heads held high, but not to impress some chick who can't even hold a conversation without saying the word "like" for about a half a dozen times in a single sentence.
And number 3 is to carry around a conversation starter. This could be like carrying around a popular book that will strike up conversation, wearing some sort of unique accessory that stands out to people, like a specific watch or some unique shoes, or even try the best accessory of them all, your dog. Taking your dog absolutely anywhere you go is a sure way to get women to come up to talk to you. Let me know in the comments which one you're going to try first, and as always, feel free to save this video as a helpful reminder of how you can start getting women to approach you.
Objection! You listen to me and you listen well, woman. You leave Gunnery Sergeant Thunderbolt, Intergalactic Canine Space Marine, out of this. That doggo is an intergalactic war hero, damn it. He's decorated with honors and is not to be used as some pawn in a modern woman's game. He was leading charges across the fire oceans of Ronalius 7 during the Warnelli campaign while you were still learning about gender fluidity in your 3rd grade math class. And if you think I'm going to let the tainted hands of a used up modern woman to come in contact with this legend, then you are sorely mistaken. This boyo deserves the utmost respect for the sacrifices he made for the betterment of the universe. And unlike modern women who will just take any conversation starters as some form of mansplaining, Gunnery Sergeant Thunderbolt, Intergalactic Canine Space Marine will never judge me for my interests. He's too busy being the most loyal, gruff-nosed canine bastard in the galaxy. And yes, that is way more valuable than any half-hearted conversation with a modern woman. And yes, this dog is truly that amazing.
I'm confident someone's already thought of this, but I just want to put it out there in case they haven't. How fucking cool would it be if TikTok did like their own dating app? or like even in the app, its own like dating section. Like, hear me out. How cool would it be if you could make like a 1 to 2 minute video, like introducing yourself, explaining your interests, whatever. And then like once a day, what it would do is show you like 3 matches of other people who are like opted into the dating TikTok. And it would be like, hey, we think you and this person would be compatible because you guys have similar algorithms. You guys both like videos that have the hashtag like football or like the hashtag skiing or whatever. And because the algorithm's so advanced, be like, hey, based off what we can tell by what you guys like, you guys have similar interests. Wouldn't that be so fucking cool?
That is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, Tom.
Yes, it's horrible, this idea.
Woman, are you seriously asking the robots to do the legwork for you in finding a guy? That doesn't sound cool. That actually sounds kind of terrible. It's not all that complicated. All you have to do is go outside and live your life and talk to people, and eventually you might find a guy who ticks enough boxes that he'd make a good mate, and then go from there. Robots cannot do that. They are incapable of human emotions, and I personally don't trust them as it is. If you give them something as irrational and volatile as human emotions, can you imagine the sheer amount of destructive power that would cause? Let's leave the nukes out of it for a second. We don't need them. Imagine a robot getting so angry after watching some militant TikToker that it goes outside and starts picking fights with men. Now, don't get me wrong, I am totally willing to take bets on humans versus robot back alley brawls, but they need to be sanctioned and scheduled properly. And what you're proposing provides neither. So instead of relying on the robots to do the work for you, you could, go outside and live your life or something, or, you could also realize that your idea is unoriginal, kind of crappy, and you could just shut up.
That would be cool.
This is why that sexy hot girl didn't want to bone you. Yeah, Daddy, you ruined it. I hear from guys all the time that they're like, I went on a really good date. It was so good. We were having great conversation. We were there for a long time just like talking and stuff. And then I'll ask them, I'll be like, okay, well, did you flirt? Did you touch? Did you kiss? Like, what made it a great date? And then they're like, oh no, I didn't do anything like that because I don't want to come off like that type of guy that's too pushy or, pushing like sex too quickly. And I'm just like, then that's not a great date. No, Daddy.
Ew. Well, if there's one thing we can agree on in life, it's that ditzy blonde women in their late 30s who constantly use the phrase daddy are always the best ones to give out life advice. Seriously, woman, are you trying to get a man arrested? If there's one thing that modern women love to do, it's to tell themselves that average men are bedroom fun-craving psychopaths, and Chaticus Tyronius is the only man worthy of her bedroom fun. That is not me talking. Modern women talk about it all the time. They intentionally withhold bedroom fun with an average man for a minimum of 3 to 6 months. And if he goes in for a move, well, let's just say the next time he gets a date, it'll be at the local courthouse and the judge will be ordering the surf and turf. Men are expected to walk an invisible tightrope of standards, checklists, and expectations that are constantly shifting around depending on whatever TikTok videos this date watched that afternoon. And if there's any moment that he stumbles, even for a second, then that date's over, and that dude will be lucky to get back home without any form of rampant social media shaming.
You need to sexually escalate on your date because that's the one thing you and her do that she doesn't do with her friends, The reason why is because you need to build desire for her to want to see you again. Otherwise, she's gonna be like, yeah, I had a good conversation, he was nice, but like, he didn't stimulate me sexually, so yeah, stimulate her mind and her kitty.
Emotional damage.
Hey, sister, you really shouldn't be talking about mental stimulation. We can already tell there's no real activity going on in that skull of yours. So let's go ahead and just spell this out. If a man goes out on a date with a woman and he is doing all of the legwork to stimulate this woman's mind and she's not giving off any signs that she's interested, then that dude got played for a food date. And the last thing he should be doing is trying to make any form of move. Women control access to the bedroom, and if she's on a date with the guy she wants, then she's going to do whatever she can to get him into bed. Yes, it really is that simple. But if she's not feeling it, nothing will happen. And yes, a man should be assertive with a woman, but we live in an era where men are considered service-dispensing commodities instead of human beings. Why should a man go through all of that just for 4 minutes of overrated intimacy with an emotionally broken woman who has to refer to the men she sleeps with as daddy? Seriously, woman, get some therapy. There are multiple things wrong with you.
Give me cancer now, guy!
I hear a lot of men talking about hoflation and how modern men have to put in 20 times more effort to bag a woman that has like a fraction of the value compared to like what his grandfather had to do in like the 1950s or earlier. But I don't hear anyone talking about the counter to this, where women today are literally settling for men who have testosterone levels the equivalent of what like a 60-year-old would have had in the 1950s. I don't hear anyone talking about how like the muscle mass of men has diminished so much that it's literally like shocking when you look back to footage of like 1950s, 60s, how shredded our country was and how jacked the guys were and like ripped, like how safe that must have felt for a woman being in the presence of these men. Like no one is talking about any of that. How many literal soy boys and like highly estrogenic men we have to sift through in the dating market. Men in like their princess era, men who like going 50-50 and don't find pride in taking care of a woman and like protecting and providing for her and his family.
Give me some money. Give me some money.
Oh, get serious, woman. That's all you morons ever complain about. All you do is talk about how there aren't any good men and how you can't get a ripped man and how all the other men are creepers. I got over a year's worth of material to prove this, lady. Now, I will give you credit. Nobody is talking about the estrogenic crisis that's affecting men today, but you're looking at this through a lens of selfishness, and I'm looking at this through the grand scheme of things. Thanks to the advent of microplastics, forever chemicals, and food that's no longer fit to eat, it's actually messed with the genetic gene pool so much that testosterone is a thing of the past. And the reason why those men 70 years ago were so jacked was because they were not only raised on hard times, but they also had diets that were natural to the human body, and they were encouraged to be masculine. Nowadays, all we got are soy boys who are force-fed processed garbage that they are so physically and mentally weak that society is pretty much screwed. But go ahead and tell me how that makes your dating life harder, because that's clearly more important.
How that trait has literally been bred out of men in this country, in America. There was a very clear moment I remember a few months ago. I was on the beach and I was just looking around at all of the men on the beach, and all I saw were like very skinny men with no muscle mass, very soft, like effeminate looking men, soft features, softer jawlines, and overweight men. There was like not one man that I physically felt safe like being around, as in he could like defend me. And I don't think women really understand like the implications of this, and we don't understand it because we've really never had it in modern day. Like modern day has made men very weak and very lazy, and so that's literally the only context that we have. But when you study testosterone and you look back at images of men from like the 1940s, their physical like facial structures even look way different. Their faces are much wider, their jaw is much sharper, and that's just like a physical indication of what having high testosterone looks like in the male body.
You're amazing. You figured this all out already.
Okay, so you're just going to ignore the 3 trillion pound elephant in the room, are ya? Oh, I'm not surprised. So, yes, we used to live in a time where men were encouraged to be men, but we also used to live in a time where women were encouraged to dress modestly, be feminine, and not fight the patriarchy with their legs spread over their heads. They also weren't entitled whales with blue head and blood that was 90% Dorito dust. And through this rant, you're trying to use sociology and science to justify your complaint that you don't have a masculine man to commit to you, and that's somehow our fault, even though if you live on tinfoil lane like I do, this was the plan the whole freaking time. The human body has been poisoned with endless amounts of chemicals, while your mind has been poisoned to think that you are entitled to the rarest of men because of reasons you can't fully articulate. Meanwhile, those soy boys you condemn were told since birth that any form of masculinity was toxic and they had to bow down to the altar of women. thus making them weak and effeminate. This is decades in the making, sweetheart. How are you not getting this?
So what ends up happening anyways is, yeah, women settle. Women settle for weak men because it's what's on the market. And frankly, most of them don't really know any better. Like, there has been a lot of blame placed on women and things like the sexual revolution, things like the birth control pill for like heightened divorce rates, and rightly so. I talk about that on my channel, but I don't think we look at the opposite side of the street enough. I don't think we look at like what these implications really have on relationships and the female psyche and how safe we feel, how like turned on we feel with these partners. So yeah, men have to try a lot harder, but women also have to settle a lot more, in my opinion.
Go, girl! You get it, girl! You hear that? You got it, girl!
The female psyche? The female psyche. Okay, woman, the sexual revolution completely destroyed the female psyche. It's been scientifically proven that when a man and a woman mate, it's supposed to be a powerful physical and emotional bond between the two. And there is biological data to actually prove this. However, the woman was never genetically designed to have multiple partners. In fact, the more partners she ultimately has, the more her brain gets warped. So when the birth control pill, which also completely messed with the human hormones and created some messed up shit, was unleashed upon humanity, it ended up starting a decades-long downfall of human interaction. But you're so focused on what you want that you would rather be blind to the truth, and that is you refuse to believe that hormone-altering drugs, militant political ideologies, and the fact that we don't eat real food anymore has more or less doomed Western society. We're all kind of screwed, sweetheart. So welcome to the club. Feel free to shut your mouth at any time. It's not like it's helping anyway. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button. Ring the notification bell, maybe leave a couple of comments, and share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.